My wife is having an affair. What should I do? A friend told me to ask for suggestions here. I got married last year to this beautiful girl. I was happy and she seemed happy too. Our families got connected through some common connection. I met her for the first time in a coffee shop in March last year. I liked her from the first instance I met her. Over the next few months and several meetings, we talked about life, career, our future together, and all the stuff which one should talk before marriage. Our perspective on most of the things aligned, which had not happened with the girls I had met before her. I fell in love with her the more I talked with her. So, when time came, I said yes to marrying her happily. She also said yes. And we got married last October. Both of us are working professionals. So, once she came to my home, we continued with our career. And everything was good at home too. We cooked together, went out, had fun. Everything was good sexually too. Then beginning of December, I kind of felt that she is distancing herself from me. Initially, I thought of giving her space so didn't pry too much. But she stopped doing the things we were doing together. After a week or so, I couldn't ignore it any further. So I asked, "Is everything okay? You seem sad since past few days." She would just say, yeah, everything is fine. But her mood didn't change. For the next couple of weeks, I asked her from time to time, but she said the same thing every time and didn't want to talk much with me. I thought in the beginning that maybe it's something I have done which might have offended her, so one night I apologized to her. I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for, but still I did just to be sure that it's not something which I did unconsciously. But even after this, she still maintained her distance with me. She also avoided any intimacy. So I stopped trying to get close to her. It started to feel like I was staying with a stranger in my home. I also thought maybe she has some past history of depression or some other issues. So I talked with her brother and also one of her friend, but they told me that no, she doesn't has any such issues. By Jan end, it was around 2 months since we behaved like husband and wife. In between these 2 months, I tried many times to break this barrier and tried to talk to her, but she would get irritated and angry. We had some small fights too. In the first week of February, she left for another city for a week and told me she has a friend whom she is going to meet. I felt happy that she finally is looking forward to something, and maybe it was this new place which made her sad. While she was away, I would call her every day once, but she would usually not pick up, or when she did, we talked hardly for like 2 minutes, and her 1 week stay extended to 2 weeks. I was okay with this. Finally, she came home. And I was very excited because I thought this time she would come changed and refreshed. I planned the weekend for us together. But she was the same. She wasn't interested in spending time with me. And was mostly in her room either watching something or on phone talking to someone. I am not that kind of person who wants to disturb anyone's personal space, so I let her be. After 4 to 5 days like this, I didn't know what else to do. I thought of going on a Europe trip with her, to which she said no. One day, last Saturday, she went out for some parlor or other stuff and her phone was at the home. Her phone rang. Initially I ignored, then it pinged with some messages. Then I did what I didn't thought I would do ever. I saw her phone, though it was locked, I could see the WhatsApp messages notification. And message read, "Hi baby, I miss you so much. When are you coming again?" and some heart emojis. I can't explain how I felt after reading that. When she came back, I confronted her. I didn't shout. I just said her calmly that I know who she went to meet and why she is not interested in me. She told me that it's her boyfriend from college. I didn't know what to say to her. I left my flat and went out. Later I had some more questions that I asked her as to why she married me then and other things. To all these questions, she only had one answer, that I don't know. Yesterday, she came to me saying she is sorry and that she has broken up with her boyfriend and that she would never do something like this again. And that she would only love me from now onwards. I feel shattered inside. I don't feel anger, I just feel sad. And what's actually funny is that there is still some love that I feel for her. I feel disgusted with myself. I am not sure what to do now. I am a software engineer by profession and I am 33. I am planning to leave the country and go for a software job in Europe somewhere. First I will have to divorce her. Should I give her one more chance? I am aware of the fact that once a cheater is always a cheater. What do you guys think? Update. I got around 80 pings asking me to share an update. So, thought of sharing it here itself. I decided to postpone the decision of whether to divorce or not for 6 months. I will make that decision after 6 months. In the meantime, we are not staying together. We are staying in the same city but in different houses. She requested these 6 months. She doesn't want any money or stuff and she will accept my decision if I still want to divorce her after 6 months. As far as day-to-day is concerned, she visits me twice every day and we spend some time together. She keeps on requesting to stay together, but I have decided not to for these 6 months. During the initial few days, she would come and cry for hours asking for forgiveness. It affected her health and her job. I took her to a therapist after one night when she kept crying for the entire night. I couldn't see her this way in so much distress and pain. From the last few days, she is doing better. Usually, most of the time we are together during the evening, we spend it on cooking. We both like cooking. Every day, she will come up with a more complicated dish to prepare with sides and appetizers and whatnot. Yesterday, we prepared momos with soup inside of it. All our momos were breaking. We had to use a syringe to inject soup at an appropriate temperature to stop it from breaking. And this was just the starter. She also prepared main course and dessert. It took around 5 to 6 hours to prepare everything. Her intention is that the more complicated the dish will be, the more time it will take and the more time she will get to spend with me. I am living on a day-to-day basis. And I am not sure at this point what I am going to decide after 6 months. I would like to quote Rilke here. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror, just keep going, no feeling is final. Just a request to people in the comments section. I read many comments saying very vulgar things about my wife. Something like she is a prostitute and she belongs on the street and other more vulgar things. Kindly don't say such things about my wife. And finally, thanks for all the wishes and messages. I wish you all the very best in life. And I will share if there are any updates in the future. Wife, 37F, cheated on me, 37 meters, 2 years ago and we worked through it. Now I want to leave and I feel guilty. Just over 2 years ago my wife cheated on me with a co-worker at her work's Christmas party out of town. She told me immediately the morning after. To say I was devastated would be an understatement. This happened pretty much immediately prior to our country going into lockdown, so we were stuck together. I was in a bit of a daze at the time and just kind of went through the motions. I was angry and miserable, but also wanted to understand why she would do it. Hence it made sense to work through it at the time, seeing as we were seemingly stuck together. To her credit though, she did everything possible to make it right. She quit her job, cut off all contact with a coworker, offered to go to therapy/counseling and even admitted to what she did publicly. I never asked her to do this and her mother and sister are very close to her and were appalled. She became much more loving and considerate and even offered to let me sleep with someone else. I was actually upset with this suggestion, but she was only saying it out of desperation. Fast forward to now, 2 years later, and by all accounts things feel like they're back to normal again. At least for her. She's no longer moping around the house, stepping on eggshells in conversation, breaking down when anything regarding cheating happens. She started crying while we were watching a soap where a wife cheats on her husband. Unfortunately, I feel like this return to normalcy has reopened the wound. I think about that night more these days than I did during the previous 2 years. I don't know why, but I think that society returning to a bit of a pre-2020 state has made me feel like I've gone back in time to that evening. I can't stand to look at her anymore. Not in a she disgusts me way, but in more of a why are you still even here kind of way. I feel guilty for wanting to leave now after all the work she put in, even though logically I know I shouldn't. I feel like I'm the bad guy for wanting to end the marriage after the work she has put in. I know people will be able to easily say she made her bed, etc., but I'm still really struggling with the idea of leaving her, for her sake. I don't hate her for it, but I don't think I love her anymore and I know this will destroy her. Part of me wishes I was strong enough to have left when it happened. Anyone been in a similar situation or have any advice? Thanks in advance. Edit. Thanks for all the responses. I feel I had already made up my mind about what I needed to do, but having people validate that I wouldn't be wrong for leaving has given me the push I need. I'll be talking to my wife later today. Update, wife, 37F, cheated on me, 37 meters, 2 years ago and we worked through it. Now I want to leave and I feel guilty. Thanks to everyone who commented on my previous post. I was surprised how much people cared about my benign marriage problems, but it helped me a lot. I checked this account out today to see what the responses were since last week and was taken aback by the number of people who wanted an update. The day after I posted, I talked to my wife and laid out my feelings. I mentioned some of the points that people on my previous post had articulated very well that resonated with me. I told her whilst I had forgiven her, I was struggling to forget what happened, and the fact we were seemingly going back to normal had triggered something in me, and now I couldn't stop thinking about it. I said that whilst I do appreciate all the work she put in to try and save our marriage, I couldn't continue anymore. I mentioned a point that someone on my previous post said, that whilst we were in lockdown, it almost felt easier to just ignore the issue to some degree, as I would always know where she was or what she was doing. But recently, for the first time since it happened, she's going into town and visiting friends, and my mind is just running at 100 miles per hour while she's out. Who is she with? Why is she slightly late home, etc.? And I haven't had to confront these feelings before. She cried, I cried, she begged me to stay, I cried again. We spent what felt like hours just sitting together in the living room, not speaking at points. She asked the same questions multiple times. Do I still love her? Will we ever see each other again? Is there anything we can try to make this work? I think eventually she was doing it to delay the inevitable. She's now staying at her mom's house, and I'm going to file for divorce. I know it's easy to lay all the blame at her feet when you're on the outside looking in, but I feel just as bad today as I did the day I found out what happened. I'm heartbroken again and know full well I'm going to question myself if I've made the right choice. You can tell me it is the right choice all you like. There is no way I will ever be sure this was the right choice. There are no winners with this shit. Everyone is miserable, everything sucks, and I'm here reliving the most painful experience of my life for the benefit of a bunch of internet strangers who probably only want to read about the drama, and have no reason to care about me personally. I don't mean to come across as bitter. I had lots of genuinely supportive comments on my previous post. I'm just really struggling right now. I won't be using this account or responding here again after this post. Thanks to everyone who commented on my previous post. TLDR. Wife cheated 2 years ago, originally worked through it, but now I've decided to end the marriage. Everybody loses.